Time for In the Trenches here on This Week in Football, presented by Geico. Geno Smith's struggles in his rookie season have been well documented, but struggling in a rookie year? Well, Geno's not alone. Take a look at some of these all-time great quarterbacks and what they did in their rookie seasons. Troy Aikman with twice as many interceptions as he had touchdowns. That was the same theme for John Elway, who completed less than 50% of his passes as well. And Peyton Manning had 28 picks in his rookie season. So Geno, with his 8 touchdowns and 18 interceptions, maybe, you know what, guys, maybe he shouldn't feel so bad about that after all.
Can we get some comparison from a guy that had a rookie season in the last 15 years, please? I mean, those guys played in a totally different era. Let's see the same graphic with RG3, Andrew Luck, and Russell Wilson, and see how Geno Smith compares to those 3 guys. Because the talent level on his team, I believe, is pretty comparable.
Well, but those guys also, you know, 2 of them at least haven't had the best second-year campaigns compared to what we saw the first year. Point being, some of these quarterbacks do struggle at some point early on in their careers, right, Howard, without it necessarily being indicative of what they become?
I don't think Michael Irvin or Marvin Harrison is going to walk in and start playing for the Jets next year to help Geno become a great quarterback and have a great receiving corps behind him. I think you have to understand that he's going to have to grow a little bit at a time. It happens. I mean, it's part of it, but you can't compare him to all-time greats. You know, the same thing happened with Cam Newton. Like last year, everyone talked about, you know, how Kaepernick, Wilson, how RG3 and Luck were so great. No one spoke about Cam, and all of a sudden, Cam Newton's coming back. You have to, you know, develop your game every year, get in the room, watch some tape, see what you've done wrong, try to figure out how to develop yourself every year. It's his first year. He'll develop a little bit more next year, but you still going to have to give him someone to throw the ball to.
See, but I think that's the point. To me, Geno Smith has to play well enough over the next 5 games that they can use their first-round pick on a guy like Marquise Lee or Sammy Watkins and give him the wide receiver weapon. If he continues to play the next 5 games like he's played the last 3, they're going to have to draft a quarterback. They're not going to draft a receiver to help Geno Smith. They're going to draft a quarterback in the first round to send Geno Smith to the bench.
Really? You think that would be the strategy, even if there's not somebody who they feel like is a can't-miss prospect at quarterback where they're drafting?
Right. I think if he played this, or you're saying if Geno Smith plays well. If Geno Smith plays,
no, if he doesn't play well. Let's say Geno Smith does not play well here over his last few weeks. You think so? No matter where they are in the first round.
If he continues to play the next 5 games, Ryan, he's been awful.
Oh, I know.
If he continues to play the next 5 games like that, and the Jets are in position to draft the top 10 quarterback, top 12 quarterback that they really like, they're going to have to pull the trigger.
But here's my one problem with that. If there's not somebody who's a can't miss at quarterback, aren't they going to find themselves in the same exact situation that Geno's in, where they have no weapons to throw to?
Who's a can't miss? First off, let's go over
exactly.
that. You don't have any can't miss quarterback. You know, the whole thing with Ross is saying this whole okay, we got to get rid of him right away. It doesn't happen that way. You build a team. You don't build it around the quarterback. You build a team. You teach him not to throw interceptions. You tell him like, hey, look, take a sack, throw the ball away, do whatever you have to do. Do what you did with Alex Smith. Alex Smith had the first 2 or 3 years of his career. He was god-awful. God-awful. And all of a sudden, someone comes in and says, hey, you know what? You don't throw any more interceptions. Don't just take sacks if you have to, or just throw the ball out of bounds.
But he's not getting it. I thought 5 weeks ago he was getting it.
Yeah,
you know, there was a stretch there where it looked like he got it.
It took Alex Smith 3 years to get it.
Well,
and a different coaching staff.
Here's my question in regard to this, though. We've seen Rex Ryan bench guys thus far. We've seen him bench a rookie like D. Milner when he struggles within a game, 1 game early on in his rookie season. Geno Smith has been an abomination over these last couple of games, yet he continues to maintain his starting job. Howard, in the locker room, are you looking at that and saying, hey, there's no accountability here. This guy needs to go to the bench.
Everyone knows that every player that's in the locker room realizes that quarterbacks are, you know, judged and graded on a different system than everyone else on the team. That's why they make, you know, 10% of the guys make most of the money in the NFL, and everybody else is just making peanuts. You know, these guys make $20 million a year, $25 million a year in some cases, but they are not, you know, graded or judged the same way they get judged.
Geno Smith's not making that money.
But it doesn't matter. You have to take time. The guy who touches the ball every time, you have to take time to figure out if he can play. And you have to make sure he has enough people to play with. And you got a guy out there playing right now. The receivers they're nice guys, but they're pretty pedestrian. Someone has to make a play for him somewhere down the line. He does throw interceptions. He does make mistakes. But if you're getting hit, you're getting pressured, you're not running the ball great, you're going to have these problems.
So, Ross, do you think the guys in the locker room then, even though he's a second-round pick, not a first-round pick, without that kind of financial commitment from the organization, do you think they're saying, you know what, look at who he has to throw to? it's okay, he should continue to get reps here? Or do you think they're saying, no, this guy needs to go on the bench the way he's playing, sabotaging our efforts to try and win games?
Wow.
I think deep down the guys know that they lack weapons around them. Now, the skill guys don't think that. Skill guys think they're pretty good.
Right. Stephen Hill's like, I don't care if I haven't caught a pass in 3 weeks. I am awesome.
But the O-linemen, the defense, I think they have a pretty good idea. And maybe they think Matt Sims or David Garrard should get a shot. Maybe it would give us a better chance to win. But most veterans I talk to, they know what's going on here. They know that Geno Smith was taken high in the second round. And in my opinion, it would be the absolute wrong move to bench Geno Smith. Who cares at this point if they make the playoffs? They're not going to make the playoffs, first of all. With the logjam at 5 and 6, they're not going to the postseason. They're not going to be the team that emerges from that. And even if they did, they're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs. What matters for the rest of this season is the New York Jets need to determine if Geno Smith is the guy they're going with in 2014 or not.
But do you think they can definitely determine that when he doesn't have legitimate weapons to throw to? Do you feel like you'll know for sure one way or another at the end of this season?
I think that they will have a bigger sample size with which to make the decision. I'm not sure that it will be 100% defined, but it will at least give them the best chance to have it declare itself one way or the other if he plays the next 5 weeks. And if he plays, I don't care who your receivers are, you can't be 8 of 24 and all these interceptions and these pick sixes. You know, at least in the New Orleans Saints game, he didn't turn it over. That's what they need to do. That's what he needs to do.
You know, Howard, do you think that this decision right now is being made by Rex Ryan, or is this being made by the front office instead and General Manager John Idzik?
I think it's probably better that you guys really think about what actually happened in the past. You know, you had Mark Sanchez, who was making all the mistakes in the world, how bad his season was a year before, and all you talked about was, you know, bringing more weapons in, getting more players on the field to help surround him, to make him a better player. And how could you let all these players get away from him? And then all of a sudden he got hurt in that preseason game, and Geno's now the quarterback. When it was Mark, it was like we got to get weapons around him. Now you have a new quarterback with the same sort of skill set, but a little more athletic. You got to You got to develop that.
But let me have you answer the question I asked. Do you think this is Rex Ryan or John Idzik who is keeping Geno Smith at quarterback?
I think it's Rex. I think Rex has to do it. I mean, Rex doesn't have a choice. If you bring someone else into the game under these circumstances, like you're basically throwing, he has to try to develop this kid. If he doesn't develop this kid, it doesn't show some sort of improvement in keeping the team together and working, then they don't need him. And Izzik's already came out and said, like, well, we're making the decision. We are doing this. Rex has to keep him in there as long as he possibly can.
Yeah, I think it's Idzik. I mean, I think this is Idzik's decision. Plus, I think Rex is smart enough to know if I bench Geno Smith, if I bench the high second-round pick that the GM just took, not a good way to keep my job here in New York.
Well, I will say this. If the accountant's making a decision, then your team's lost.
Well, you know what? I think if the GM's an accountant and not a GM, your team might be lost anyway. For now, Geno Smith is the quarterback. That much we do know.